This is Bob with BBD from BBD News with Views. I want a quick readout on something that I think I also take a note of, and I think kind of shows the Supreme Court, in my opinion, in a very poor light. He says, Dave says instant listing of Arnab matters disturbing. Especially since, ordinary folks have to wait years to get a date from the Supreme Court. This just does not sing well with at all, right? And here is something that, I want to conclude this part with what media management, Modi style, written by Tavleen Singh. On the day they arrested Arnab Goswami last week, every senior minister in Narendra Modi's cabinet came out openly in his support. The list of ministerial supporters is long, so here is an abbreviated version. Among those who tweeted for Arnab were the ministers of Home, Finance, External Affairs, Law and Information and Broadcasting. And this is amazing, unheard of. They spoke of what happened to the celebrity TV journalists as an assault, oh my God, on freedom of the press. It was the hypocrisy of that astounded me, she writes. They know better than anyone else that Modi has done more to curb press freedom than any prime minister since Indira Gandhi. And that's telling. Foreign correspondents who have written critical pieces on him have found restrictions imposed on their visas. Within India, editors have been summarily dismissed for having the wrong attitude. And, it's amazing. And besides, the Enforcement Directorate and the IT department all seem to go after anybody who disagrees with them. And on the one thing that Arnab's arrest is not, is an attack on press freedom. And that's true. Now let's talk about Bihar. All the pollsters gone into the bill, into a hole, including me, all wrong. However, I wouldn't say Nitish won. BJP won. Nitish won thanks to the BJP. The winner in this whole game was BJP. The loser was Nitish. Nitish is much reduced in stature. And as like he rightly says, BJP gives Bihar to Nitish. However, it was a tough fight. It was not easy. So the going into the next round, Tejasvi is going to give a fight to the BJP, and I'm quite sure that the JDU vote will not transfer easily to the BJP. It has a greater likelihood to transfer itself to the RJD if he comes out with the same three issues that he was talking about. So, and because of what he's done, and that's amazing, Tejasvi gets largest party but not the crown. Hey, he's a young guy. Who are the biggest losers? Obviously, the biggest loser that pulled everybody down is the Congress party. Rightly says, Congress poor show hurts allies. Party says fought tough. Says, what a bunch of crap. When was this hubris that is set in with this coterie in Delhi, get rid of this whole thing? Unbelievable that defeat after defeat. Look at Gujarat, they've lost. They've lost in Gujarat, they've lost, nothing gained in Karnataka, nothing gained in Madhya Pradesh, nothing gained in Manipur of all places. The entire blame, in my opinion, must rest at the top. Any more excuses have to be shelved. It's about time that the coterie, the kiss-ass coterie around the Gandhis realize and see the writing on the wall. This isn't going anywhere, folks. Very important. And the other big loser in this whole process was LPJ. He was a big X factor. He destroyed the votes for the JDU, and probably it was a ploy. Destroyed the votes up to a large degree for the RJD. Oh well, so be it. But where is he going to stand? His entire vote share, if you see, folks, has dipped from a high of 12% to a low of 0.4% this year. He's lost in the plot, right? And as this report says, in defeat, Tejasvi sets stage for future battles. And just please remember that, folks. That's important. And as I said, in Gujarat by polls, BJP rests all 8 Congress seats. And the other big story that's coming out and can be extremely important for Indian politics is AIMIM gains as smaller parties fail to make a mark. The other important point is is what has happened with the CPI-MLC. They've had a strike rate of over 70%, winning 9 or is it 7 or 9 out of the 11 seats that were given to them. This is what is the bottom of the pie is telling us, that they are totally unhappy and totally uncared for. The other important part is this, how women steered NDA towards majority. It's the increase in the vote share of the women by almost 5% points that has probably made the difference. And here let me tell you the biggest story I can tell. Some years ago, I was talking to this one of the coteries of Rahul of Raga, and I mentioned it to them that was just when the large number of women had been elected to the US Congress, and I said that's going to be a game changer. And his pomposity, he had said, just not possible in India, bro, just not possible, Bobby, it's just not possible. And I said to him, I think, at the end of the day, this is a start of a trend. And then Naveen Patnaik pulled it off. He gave a whole bunch of seats in the assembly to women who won. TMC pulled it off, gave a whole bunch of tickets to members of parliament, and they pulled it off. The BJP continues to also do far better. So the party that's turned out to be the most patriarchal party and living in ancient ages actually is the Congress. What is the point of fighting for a fixed percentage of tickets to be given to women? They should start the trend, folks. If they really want to put their money in their mouth, is just give tickets to women, and that's the only game changer they have. Outside of that, they may be consigned to the dustbin of history. More after the break.
We believe in natural herbs and homemade remedies because the body deserves only purity. Think of natural products. Think of Sada Jeevan.
Welcome. I'm back. Now let's look at the other democracy in play. This was in full flow, and as the Prime Minister rightly said, Bihar taught the world first lesson of democracy. A record number of poor, deprived and women of Bihar also voted, and today have also given their decisive decision for development. It's a true statement, right? Especially when I read out what's happening. But look at what we say. Deprived and poor women of Bihar, and decisive decision of development. I just feel so sad that after so many years, and even after 5 years of this government, really nothing much has changed in Bihar on the ground, especially post demonetization. It's just really, really sad. But the other democracy is obviously under stress, as this says. Trump sues to block Pennsylvania from certifying Biden win. And they're going to use apparently all kinds of shenanigans to try and do that. Because two of the states that are essentially controlled by the Republicans, Arizona and Georgia, have flipped. And including the Secretary of State for Georgia has refused to resign and has gone ahead and said that there was absolutely no fraudulent vote. That's the kind of stuff that's happening. It's a guy who's shouting and screaming, and including Pompeo. This is Pompeo's speech, or was it presser, saying that he's all ready for the transition, well-geared transition to the second Trump term. Kind of gets my funny bone. And look at this. U.S. Attorney General Barr allows probes into voter fraud. Top official resigns in protest. I cannot believe this, but I guess when somebody like the president have 70 million voters, the entire Republican Party has turned turtle. So everybody is for this one man, and nobody really is there for the country. And the lies that are being spread about Democrats, this cabal, this deep state, and being followed by everybody, is unbelievable. Oh well, another pot boiler. But this is one thing I like to tell everybody, and this is a note that India should take. I know the Prime Minister said that Bihar taught the world first lessons of democracy, but this is what this confusion and chaos in the US holds lessons for India. As he says, as Praveen Chakravarti writes, the robustness of the US federal setup. You've got to hear this carefully. Indian national elections appear much more efficient than the American national elections. In India, votes are counted fast, and results are announced by the end of counting day. Disputes over counting are few and rare. Never does an incumbent head refuse to vacate office after an electoral loss. Well, at least till now, maybe after what they see what Trump is doing, maybe they'll try it here too, right? In contrast, the world has witnessed the chaos and disarray in the counting process of the US presidential election. It thus seems tempting for Indian commentators to offer some lessons to Big Brother and to export India's more efficient elections process to the US. But in the US electoral process is intentional and a small price to pay for a much larger good, federalism. The US's intensely federal structure and its inevitable inefficiencies are a deliberate design and not an accident. A heavily decentralized model with powers handed down to state and local government has served the US extraordinarily well. The staunch decentralization and devolution of power in the country system is perhaps a critical factor in the US's overall success as a nation. That is much more appreciated and recognized. Inefficiency is a small price to pay for much larger and more sustainable benefits. Federalism sings, and it's critical for a country like India. In contrast, India is heavily centralized with a trend towards greater centralization in recent years, and they have failed basically the GST. They've let the states down. The promises have been broken. But it says the goods and service tax regime supported by both national parties is one glaring recent example of how as a nation sacrifice federalism at the altar of economic efficiency. 7 decades later, the time has come for India to devolve most powers to states and enable a more vibrant and competitive federalism environment, not centralize even more in the garb of one nation, one policy and efficiency. Neither is there one government, neither is there one nation. Just look at what's happening between Mizoram, Assam, Tripura, Assam, all over the place. And neither is there any efficiency, that's for sure. The fleeting chaos over the presidential elections will pass and the US will soon have a new president. But the underlying federal structure that has served the country admirably well remains steadfast regardless of the chaotic experiences. Indian commentators may well be justified to want to export our election process to the US. It is of greater importance that India imports ideas of genuine devolution and decentralization from the US. I absolutely go for greater devolution and decentralization. It will produce the most efficient economic structure in India for sure. Centralization creates huge centrifugal forces that if things don't work out, the ultimate split out will be too powerful for anybody to control. A lesson on federalism from the United States. We can mock what's happening in the United States, but hopefully it's a story that there are parts of it that India can absolutely needs to follow. Jai Hind.